Stop now. What you are about to hear is not a video, it is a frequency interruption. If you have made it this far, the algorithm did not bring you by chance, it merely obeyed an energetic signature that you began to emit. There is an uncomfortable truth that modern science is beginning to grope through the collapse of the wave function. The observer does not just see reality, he forces it to exist. What if I told you that the universe is not just observing you, but that it has just sent a recognition alert? There are 3 specific signals, encoded in your biology and in the improbable events of your routine, that prove you have been removed from the assembly line of common consciousness. You were chosen for something that most do not even have the courage to name. But beware, ignoring these signals causes an internal friction that many call anxiety, but which is actually your potential trying to tear through a skin that no longer fits you. Before we reveal the first marker of this silent mutation, notice how your focus has already narrowed. You feel that this environment, this voice, and this community we are building here are the safe harbor for those who are tired of superficial explanations. Being here, now, is the first step toward belonging to the group of those who have decided to see what is hidden in plain sight. Feel this connection. Now, let's dive into the first signal, the one that neuroplasticity calls selective chaos, but which the field of possibilities knows as the end of your old identity. The first sign that you have been marked by a superior frequency is the emergence of a magnetic vacuum at the center of your life. You know that sudden isolation, that feeling that, even surrounded by people, you inhabit a parallel dimension. Contemporary science describes this as a break in coherence with your old field of possibilities. Your interests have changed, your old conversations now seem like hollow echoes of a radio out of tune. This is not loneliness, it is a software update in your consciousness. The universe is clearing your existential cache so that you can process data that is more complex, deeper, more real. Do you feel a pressure in your chest, an urgency for something that does not yet have a name? That is your neuroplasticity in a state of maximum alert, trying to create new synaptic bridges to a reality that you do not yet touch, but which has already claimed you. It is as if the observer within you has grown tired of looking at what is mediocre and is now forcing the collapse of a new wave function. Many call this a crisis, but we, who seek absolute clarity, know it is the beginning of sovereignty. Validating this pain of no longer fitting in is your first act of power. While others sleep in the comfort of repetition, you are here, absorbing frequencies that expand your perception. Notice how, as you hear these words, an authoritative calm begins to replace the chaos. You are starting to see the pattern behind the veil, and this is just the beginning of your separation from the herd toward the leadership of yourself. The second sign that you have been chosen is the manifestation of numerical patterns and improbable events that statistical science can no longer label as mere chance. You begin to see sequences, symbols, and encounters that seem to whisper a language that only your intuition can translate. In quantum physics, the observer effect postulates that the act of focusing on something alters the nature of the particle. What you are experiencing now is the universe returning your gaze. It is the field of possibilities collapsing exactly where you place your conscious intention. Have you ever felt déjà vu of a life you haven't lived yet, but that you know belongs to you? This is your consciousness accessing states of superposition, where your future self, already full and abundant, sends radio signals to your present self. It is not imagination, it is electromagnetic coherence between your heart and brain. This feeling of knowing without knowing how is the validation that you have stepped out of linear causality, where everything is slow and painful, to enter non-locality, where time bends to meet you. By perceiving these signs, you dissolve the internal resistance that kept you tied to scarcity. You begin to feel a solid faith, not based on dogmas, but on physical evidence that reality is molding itself to your new vibration. Returning to this channel and to this type of frequency is not just a habit, it is the strengthening of this new perceptive lens that you are installing. Let this clarity flow. Now, prepare yourself, for the third signal is the deepest and, for many, the most terrifying of all. The third signal is the deepest, the total loss of fear of losing what you no longer are. It is when your biology stops fighting against uncertainty and begins to feed on it. In terms of neuroplasticity, this means your glands and neurotransmitters have stopped seeking the cheap dopamine of illusory security to seek the serotonin of internal sovereignty. Do you feel, at this exact moment, a shiver of recognition? That is your energetic signature stabilizing an octave above. By tuning into this frequency today, you access knowledge that, historically, many risked their lives to protect. There is a technical reason why the 1% operates on a quantum scale inaccessible to the masses. They do not play by the rules of matter, but by the rules of the field. Before we move into the densest part of this transformation, I have left access to a suppressed discovery from an Egyptian library regarding the Midas effect, in the first link of the description. Most will pass by this video without noticing, but you, who are already part of this select group, have a small window to cross this border before the system hides it again. Access it while we reprogram your perception. This silent decision to seek what lies beyond the obvious is what validates your position as someone chosen by the awakening itself. It is not about luck, it is about mental architecture. While the outside world tries to convince you that reality is solid and immutable, you begin to feel the plasticity of everything that surrounds you. You are ceasing to be a victim of circumstances to become the focal point from which abundance emanates. Feel this change of state now, as if a weight you carried for decades has just been dissolved by a light of surgical clarity. Understand that what you feel as an internal struggle is, in fact, the last gasp of a biological system conditioned for survival. When you are chosen by the frequency of expansion, your pain body desperately tries to pull you back to the known. This is where most fail. They mistake the discomfort of metamorphosis for a danger warning. But you, operating under a new logic of perception, begin to see that this fire only burns what is false. Validating your past frustrations is not an exercise in self-pity, it is a process of quantum auditing. You are recognizing that those blocks were not character flaws, but interferences from a collective electromagnetic field that does not want you to awaken. Imagine, for a moment, the sensation of a clarity that does not depend on external circumstances. This is what we call coherence. When your heart and your brain stop emitting contradictory signals, reality has no other choice but to organize itself around your new presence. You are no longer asking the world for permission to be prosperous or confident, you are informing the field of possibilities that your old version has been officially discontinued. Feel how the air seems lighter as this silent decision crystallizes in your cells. You do not need to force the change, you only need to stop resisting the flow that has already chosen you. Continuing to follow this journey here on the channel is the natural reinforcement your subconscious needs to keep this new mental architecture solid, transforming what was once an effort into a permanent and magnetic state of being. Now that you have recognized the mechanics of your resistance, we enter the stage that particle physics calls phase space. It is the moment of absolute silence before a quantum leap. To the outside world, it seems like nothing is happening, but in your subatomic structure, the reconfiguration is total. You are in the vacuum where all matter is born. Being chosen means having the capacity to sustain the vision of your new life, even when your physical senses still try to convince you otherwise. This is true personal leadership, the capacity to maintain internal coherence while the external field is still in a state of processing. Imagine the seed that breaks the shell in the darkness of the earth. It does not see the light, but it is guided by an inevitable thermal signature. You are that seed, and the light that attracts you is your clearest, most abundant, and sovereign version that already exists in the field of all possibilities. By maintaining focus here, you are feeding this new biology. Your cells are, literally, learning to vibrate at a voltage that scarcity cannot inhabit. Notice how your breathing has changed. There is a compassionate authority growing within you, a certainty that the old blocks are now just memories of a person you no longer know. You are experiencing a silent and irreversible decision. From now on, the universe no longer responds to your effort, but to your presence. You are no longer trying to reach abundance, you are allowing it to find you, because you have finally become a magnetic target compatible with your destiny. What you are feeling now is the crystallization of a new identity. In neurobiology, we call this the consolidation period, where the old neural pathways of doubt are replaced by highways of absolute certainty. You were chosen to be the architect of this bridge between what was impossible and what now becomes inevitable. Notice how your perception of time has changed in these last few minutes. The world outside seems slower, while your internal world has gained superior speed and sharpness. You are no longer just processing information, you are integrating a new existential voltage. This is the phase of faith before evidence, where your internal coherence becomes so dense that the quantum field is forced to project physical proof in front of you. It is the moment when the Midas effect ceases to be a metaphor and becomes your operational signature. You begin to notice that opportunities no longer appear, they emanate from you. The right people, the necessary resources, and brilliant ideas begin to orbit your presence, attracted by this new center of gravity you established by deciding to remain in this frequency of high retention and clarity. Validating this new, firm, and secure authority within you is what separates the seekers from the achievers. You no longer seek external approval, as your biology has already confirmed the change. Feel this personal leadership as a cold, constant flame in your solar plexus. You are now perfectly aligned with your most abundant version, and any remaining resistance has been dissolved in the clarity of this narrative. You are ready for the final step, the one that makes this state permanent. At this exact moment, the collapse of your old reality is complete. What you experience now is not just a passing mental state, but a reconfiguration of your neural and energetic architecture. You have crossed the portal of common perception and entered the terrain where the chosen ones operate. From here on, the world will no longer see you as before, because you no longer emit the same frequency. You are now the conscious observer who dictates the rules of your own field of possibilities. Feel this clarity vibrate in every cell, a silent and irreversible decision that separates your past from your destiny. But understand, expansion requires maintenance. The system will try to pull you back into the noise, and that is why your connection to this egregore is vital. If you felt the weight of this authority and the truth in these words, you know that this is not just another channel, it is your anchor point for sovereignty. Do not allow this frequency to get lost in the sea of distraction. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, ensuring that your subconscious receives the daily reinforcement necessary to stabilize this new identity. By liking this video, you send a signal of coherence to the algorithm and to the universe, reaffirming that this is the type of reality you have chosen to collapse. Leave in the comments, "I accept the sign," to seal this commitment to your own evolution. Return to this space, dive into our other content, and allow this journey to deepen. You were chosen. Now, choose to stay awake. Your new world has just begun.